Welcome to Screen Riot. This week's movie is Pan's Labyrinth, a fantasy film from 2006. This episode will contain major spoilers, so if you haven't seen the movie yet, it's available to stream on Netflix or rent on all of the other major streaming services. Go check it out and come back to the podcast because this is Screen Riot. Welcome to Season 4's first episode of Screen Riot, the podcast where we review a movie chosen entirely by fate. If you're having difficulties finding movies to watch, then this is the podcast for you. I'm one of your hosts, Justin, and alongside me are co-hosts Eddie, Kyle, and John. And each week, one of us spins the wheel of fate, and the host must pick any movie from that genre. If you'd like to see all the movies that we've reviewed so far and how they've ranked, visit ScreenRiot.net and have a look at the movie ratings page. At the end of each show, we'll spin and see what next week's movie is going to be so that you can follow along at home. And also while you're at ScreenRiot.net, make sure to head over to the support page to see all the different ways that you can help support the show, which we greatly appreciate. So Pan's Labyrinth is the movie that we're doing this week, and it's 1 hour and 58 minutes long, just shy of 2 hours. It's rated R, and it was written and directed by the Spanish filmmaker Guillermo del Torro.
Oh, that was not even it. Guillermo del Toro.
Buenos noches.
Just go with Guillermo del Toro. It's an easy one there. Good Lord.
I like mine.
What was it? Guillermo? I like that.
I don't think we roll G's.
Here are your maracas, Justin. I believe you dropped these. White Devil, White Devil?
And the original title is actually El Labyrinth de Fauno.
Yeah, the Fauno.
Yes, the Labyrinth of the Faun.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which, so if you're unfamiliar with Del Toro...
I like how you say it like it's Del Taco. If you're unfamiliar with Del Taco, try Taco Bell. It's almost as good.
Or Taco Bus.
Oh, God.
Really good. Anyway,
go ahead.
So Del Toro. So he's directed a few movies that we've probably all seen, like Blade 2, the Hellboy series, Pacific Rim, The Shape of Water, Pinocchio, which is in post-production, and it's coming out in 2021.
Really?
Apparently.
Wow.
So he looks like he's going to be doing a Del Toro-ized
Pinocchio.
That
whale is going
That's
to be
weird.
a nightmare. The whale, you remember the whale in Pinocchio, right?
Yeah.
It's going to be the thing of nightmares. Like, it's going to be just
probably
insane looking.
I think it'd be interesting.
No, I'm not saying it's bad.
Yeah.
I'm just saying he tends to have a pretty out there, imagination. The first Del Toro movie I ever saw was The Devil's Backbone, which is a Spanish film that he did that is pretty. It's out. It's insane. It's a horror film, but I mean it's dark.
Actually, I was going to mention that in a second.
Yeah.
Because he wanted to do a trilogy of Spanish War movies.
Yes.
And The Devil's Backbone was the first one. Mm-hmm. This is the second one in the trilogy.
Okay.
And he has not done the third one yet.
Gotcha.
In fact, which we'll get into the movie Pan's Labyrinth, but the rebel soldiers who get
the backdrop.
shot,
They're communists, but yeah.
Yeah, the communists.
Yeah.
According to Del Toro, in the narrative of his trilogy, those were the children from the orphanage.
Oh, no shit.
Yeah.
That's an interesting tie-in. Huh.
Yeah. So anyway, we'll get into that a little bit. But the last thing that he's attached to that I wanted to mention is we watched Heat as our season finale for season 3.
Yeah.
Yep.
Right? Some of us liked it, some of us didn't. However, I found it interesting that Del Toro is producing an untitled Michael Mann documentary.
Just a documentary?
Yeah.
Is he calling it Heat 2? The Heater?
I don't know. It's called Untitled.
Probably
Right.
talking about, man, that's a good documentary.
Oh my god.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Mine was pretty bad. That was... Thank you for helping me.
Man, was that joke bad?
My joke sounds better now, right?
Yes.
With see, Heat 2 sounds better. Yeah.
No, I do want to mention too that something that me and my family really like on Netflix is Troll Hunters, and he created and directed that whole series as well. So, and they were absolutely phenomenal films. Series.
Right. Yeah, I totally forgot. I totally forgot that you're a Troll Hunter fan.
Oh,
to
yeah.
put that in here.
Love me some Troll Hunters.
So let's talk about Oscars of 2007 because this came out in 2006. So it won 3.
Wow.
for 2007. It won Best Cinematography, Best Art Direction, and Best Makeup. It was nominated for 3 more for Original Screenplay, Original Score, and Foreign Film, Best Foreign Film.
I could definitely say best makeup. That it had some pretty damn good makeup in it.
I really like the cinematography.
I really like the faun?
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Yeah, that makeup was incredible.
Yeah.
I really enjoyed it.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, the dude with the eyes was pretty wicked.
Skin guy is pretty weird.
Pale man.
Yeah.
Yeah. Del Toro, I don't know. He's got it out there. I mean, his whole his whole imagination, his whole sort of take on these, because what he likes to do, from what I can tell, is he likes to take traditional-ish stories and
like
then
fairy tales.
Yeah, and then just kind of do his own, like, hold on to your hats, hold on to the seat of your pants kind of thing. Like, he's going to take you on this ride of like through his brain of what this fairy tale looks like or what this story looks like.
Mm-hmm.
The Devil's Backbone does the same thing with the ghost story, like taking a traditional ghost story and just going like, okay, left field. You know what I mean? This story has elements of like Alice in Wonderland. It has elements of obviously the Labyrinth from all those different religious tales.
Mm-hmm.
The faun, sort of a pseudo devil type character, but not quite. I mean, so there's quite a few different mythic stories, religious stories, and folk
kind of
tales
rolled into one.
being rolled into one, and I mean, he does it
kind of like a nice burrito.
Yeah, but he does it pretty seamlessly.
Yeah,
I mean, I like how he went burrito, by the way, because he's a Hispanic or Spanish.
I don't think
director.
He was going there.
That's definitely where he was going. Yeah,
No.
yeah. You got to keep up more with Justin's jokes.
I'm not going to give him that much credit.
From the kitchen of Del Toro.
Oh dear God,
Jesus.
Pan's burrito.
I'd watch that too. I'm a Del Toro fan.
Did you ever see that horror movie that he made? I think it was called like The Tooth Fairy or something. Or I had to look it up.
Did he use the same animations for the fairies?
I don't
for
remember.
This one?
Wait, I think I do actually remember this movie.
It wasn't very good.
I don't think I don't know.
Why are we talking
What
about?
year was it?
Yeah, let me look it up real quick.
Okay. Well, because The Devil's Backbone's a horror story. I mean, it's got some historical drama parts of it too, but it's definitely a horror film.
Okay, so he wrote and produced the horror movie I'm talking about.
Oh, what was
I thought he directed it. It's called Don't Be Afraid of the Dark.
Oh.
It's about a tooth fairy or something.
I
Wicked.
I think I saw it, but I don't really remember 100% to be able to say like, oh yeah, it was great or it was bad. I mean, he's got some like really good ones. Like I personally like the first Hellboy. I like Hellboy 2 okay. I like the way Hellboy 2 looks.
Yes.
Much more than the story.
Yeah.
Right?
I like Hellboy too.
Yeah. Yeah, it's not bad. But again, I like the way it looks much more than the actual story. Devil's Backbone is great. I like this movie. But then like Shape of Water is kind of a miss to me.
Mm-hmm.
What's some other ones he did? You named off like 15. I'm trying to think of one
Blade
of the other.
2.
Blade 2 is an obvious miss. I mean, I don't care. You sure he did 2 or Trinity?
Blade 2. That's what it says on IMDb.
Okay, for some reason I thought he did Trinity, in which case I was going to say Ryan Reynolds was not the best choice there.
Yeah.
Blade 2 was better than Blade 3.
Pacific Rim.
Pacific Rim I like.
Pacific Rim is fun.
Yes.
But you know what I don't like about Pacific Rim though is the timing and the way that his Act 2, Act 3 to me are very jumbled. Like you come to a point where you're like, oh, that was the climax, and then they're like, but we're going back in. I'm like,
yeah.
So that wasn't the climax.
Like a double ending kind of thing. Yeah,
it feels weird in that way. But again, the aesthetic of it, the kaiju monsters and the giant robots and stuff. I mean, had he not stolen the plot line from Robot Jocks, I'd be much more impressed. But it was still kind of cool.
Mm-hmm. I think the first Del Toro stuff I've seen was Hellboy.
Yeah,
and Hellboy 1 is just kind of like, okay.
Okay.
But I liked Hellboy 2 better. I think the filmmaking was better.
Okay,
and I think that's what sold me on it, I think.
See, for me,
and his creature design is interesting to me.
Oh, yeah. I liked Hellboy 1 more, but Hellboy 2, I think Hellboy 2 looked nicer.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Hellboy 1 seemed like, hey, we got this idea, but not a lot of money. And, they pulled it off. I still think steampunk Nazi guy is a cool-ass character. I'm sorry. I mean, he's a Nazi. He's a fuckhead. I'm with you on that. But at the same time, it's a pretty cool character. Mm-hmm. Like, what do you want to do? I want to make a steampunk character that's also a Nazi. Okay. I'm going to fill him with watch parts. What? Like, that's basically
Sold.
the idea. Yeah.
So, Pan's Labyrinth.
Yeah.
Yeah, totally.
Who the hell is Pan?
So, Pan is a...
He's not in the movie.
Yeah, he's not in the movie.
Yeah, who the hell is Pan?
He's a...
And why is his labyrinth right next to a Nazi/Spanish/French Revolution base?
They weren't Nazis. I'm with you on that.
Well, they had Lugers.
Yes, because they were getting parts and stuff from the Germans.
Yeah,
but they weren't
the Nazis.
They weren't Nazis themselves.
I know.
Yeah, they were fascists though.
It's almost like a parallel universe in the fact that it's like the Germans versus the French. Because the French are trying to revolt and say get out of our country and all that stuff, but everybody speaks Spanish, and you have uniforms that look very Nazi-ish. But you also have like the German type eagle, like the black eagle on their uniforms and everything.
Yeah.
They're using German weapons.
So here's the bad thing.
Yeah.
It's not really bad. It's just here's the piece you don't know. So the history part of this is actually fairly accurate. Mm-hmm. Like basically what was happening was that you had the fascists back then.
Yeah.
And they were fighting the anarchists and the communists and all this kind of stuff. So the two groups that you're seeing, the guys in the woods, are mostly communist anarchists. Okay. The guys that are in the nice suits and all that kind of stuff actually won the war. When this movie takes place, they technically won the war like 4 years before this movie takes place. Right. Okay. And they took control of the Spanish government. And they were in control of it, I think, all the way through like the 1970s, 1980s. They were led by a fascist named Franco. Okay. So where you had Mussolini in Italy. Yeah. Franco was the Spanish fascist. Okay. So that part of this, I mean, not so much this specific story. I can't tell you that story took place, but as far as the backdrop of the war that's taking place and the rebels, fighting back against the government, etc., that's all true shit. Okay. That's all 100% accurate stuff. Now what Del Toro did, and he did this in Devil's Backbone, again, it's interesting, I didn't know it was part of a trilogy, but he did this in Devil's Backbone, is he uses that war as the backdrop for all these other intricate little tales and stories that are sort of taking place. Okay. And what he's really good at is building out these characters from the types of characters that would have been around during that war.
Gotcha. Do
you see what I mean?
Yeah, because having it happen in 1944, and they were talking about Eisenhower and how the British and the Americans are coming to help them and all that kind of stuff. And I was thinking, okay, where the hell are we?
Yeah, there's actually
is this supposed to be setting for real? Is this a parallel universe? Like what's going on here?
Yeah, I had to look it up, but you just said it. You said
phalangists.
Yeah, phalangists. That's an ideology, and you actually see the symbol on the cars.
Yep. Oh yeah. Okay, with the arrows and all. Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Interesting. That's the fascist party or whatever.
Yeah, and they were a group of uber conservative, uber traditionalist Spaniards who were fighting the outside forces of like the communists, the anarchists. There were some Nazi forces that were trying to rise up in Spain. They were against that shit. So like they were, in a weird way. And I'm not trying to praise the bad guys in this movie, but in a weird way, we actually aligned somewhat more with them as opposed to the rebels. But the rebels were more about the idea of freedom and democracy, where the phalangists were not 100% about that.
Gotcha.
You see what I'm saying? Yeah. So that's the piece where we would definitely differ. So
yeah, and so to answer his question about
who the hell is Pan?
Yeah, Pan is a specific Greek god who is also goat-like, like Faun is.
Okay.
Faun is actually a mythological creature, half man and half goat, and that represents nature, and it's where we get the word fauna from, like flora and fauna. But Pan is generally depicted as mischievous, harmful, and overly sexual, and not a creature you'd be comfortable with having a little girl act against.
Right. Okay.
But basically, it was named Pan's Labyrinth for American audiences because probably won't go see a movie called Faun's Labyrinth.
So and another piece about Pan is that the Greek notion of Pan, the old Greek god thing, actually did become like a archetype or a blueprint, so to speak, for our version, our modern version of Lucifer.
Yeah.
Yes.
Right.
Because when I was first watching this, I realized really quickly that I had never seen this in its entirety.
Okay.
I had just seen bits and pieces. And I was like, oh, well, that's from Pan's Labyrinth. Okay, cool. But I completely thought that Pan, actually the Faun, was the devil.
Okay.
And he was just basically trying to have, like, the Antichrist born from this mother.
Well,
in a weird,
So I was going to say, in a weird way, it's not 100% what didn't happen. So here's what's strange is that this is it's not a Christian view of the underworld.
Right.
So, I mean, she technically, it depends on which tale of this story you believe, but she technically is a princess. Okay, let's go with the mythical part first. So she's technically a princess of the underworld.
Yeah, right.
So in our definition of Western, religion, Western, Christian religion, she's the devil's princess,
right?
Like, or devil's daughter,
right?
Right? And this guy Pan or the faun is essentially his representative, possibly even an offshoot of himself that is going to try and entice her into the underworld by, entice her back to the underworld to become ruler.
Yeah.
Now, the question becomes whether or not that's actually what's taking place.
Gotcha.
Because the other piece of this is that she's not the devil's princess, which is probably more the truth, and that this is the way that this little girl is dealing with the world around her as all the adults and all the things that are happening,
and
her mom dying and war and all
yeah.
this shit. She's dealing with it by going into this imagination world, into this imaginary world. Where
Yeah,
she deals
and
with the
it's like,
labyrinth.
towards the end or whatever, when she's talking to the faun, and then, El Capitan comes around the corner, and he sees her talking to nobody.
Right. Exactly.
And so I'm thinking, okay, well, is this all in her head, or is this actually real? Or it's like, the whole thing on, believing in Santa Claus.
Yeah.
Right. So when you're older, okay, he doesn't exist. But when you're younger, you can actually see him physically. You can actually hear the bells and all that kind of stuff because it's all in your imagination.
Right. And they do a little, to go a little bit backwards in the film, they do a little kind of foreshadowing of that too. When the father finds the mandrake root under the bed, right? And her mom takes it and throws it in the fire, right? Where everything is coming from that mom point of view, like the thing just starts burning, right? But then we do a quick shot. Del Toro does a really quick shot of Sophia, not Sophia, Ofelia.
Yeah.
Sorry. Does a quick shot of Ofelia, and now we're all of a sudden looking at her point of view, and then we cut back to the mandrake root in the fire, and now it's moving and it's alive and it's burning.
Right.
So that is kind of like his first kind of thing of, hey, maybe this isn't all really taking place.
He purposefully does. He purposely doesn't answer that question because he doesn't. He wants that left up to the viewer, because even if the Capitan doesn't see him, well, it could still be real, but faun is only visible to Ofelia.
Right. Yeah.
Right. That kind of thing. So
it's like this invisibility cloak or something like that around him.
Well, or because she's the princess in the underworld, she can see him, but nobody else can. Because it's like
like the words in the book.
The words in the book, but also the bug at the beginning that becomes the little fairy.
Well, and actually the chalk too.
So the chalk's an interesting thing.
Because Mercedes does see the chalk.
But she does. It's not a door.
But yeah, it's
shape
just
of a door.
It's just the shape of a door. Yeah, she sees it, but it's not. I mean, obviously, she doesn't go and try to open it.
Right, because she has no idea.
She has no idea. She's like, oh, it's a box. Yeah. Cool. Next.
Yeah, it's just, there's, again, I'm with John. I mean, I think that he purposely made it ambiguous to sort of allow, I mean, even the viewer to sort of dance in this fantasy world, but you still have to deal with the reality of, like, no matter what took place, the little girl got killed.
Right.
And she was killed by a raging general or whatever, the captain
Vidal.
Yeah, I always forget Vidal or Vidal.
Vidal,
yeah. Like the youngin.
Yeah.
Anyhow, so, or no, not the youngin. It's the shampoo, isn't it? The
Vidal Sassoon.
Vidal Sassoon. There we go.
Like Vidalia.
No, Vidalia. Anyhow, the little pixie things at the beginning. By the way, I personally really like how they sort of take that bug that's dancing around or whatever, the stick bug thing, and then whenever she's like, well, you don't look like a fairy, it turns into a fairy. I really like that scene personally, because I was like, okay, that's interesting. So it almost makes you wonder, is the fairy just able to shapeshift, or is it, because she's doing it, or because it doesn't match what she thinks it should look like, quote unquote. But that makes you question, okay, now it seems like it might really be happening because it doesn't match what she would think. If it was just in her imagination, it would show up looking like that fairy.
Or like the fairies back, way back.
Yeah.
Or that's how the original shape of a fairy is.
And bugs?
Yeah.
And
then in her mind, she's like, no, that's not a fairy. It's just a bug.
Yeah.
And they're like, oh, well, okay, well, just to prove to you that we're fairies, then we'll shapeshift into something that you're more comfortable with.
Yeah.
Well,
of all the horrors in this movie,
Yes.
The worst to me, and the thing that made me just cringe the most, was when
He smashes his face in with the ball with the glass, because that was rough.
That is
that's
brutal.
the
was
second
pretty
one.
rude.
That's
Okay.
the second one. But
Shit.
but the fairies getting their heads bitten off.
Yeah,
God.
by Skin Guy.
By Skin Guy.
Yeah.
I felt so bad, and I was so mad at Ofelia for eating that fruit.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, what in the world? I mean, I was almost in tears about these fairies getting their heads bitten off for
That's
no
funny.
reason because I wanted a grape, bitch.
Well, she hasn't eaten in a day.
2 grapes. She
Yeah.
ate 2.
I know, and
Only
2 fairies
2?
got their heads ripped off.
So that scene, by the way, too, was very Alice in Wonderland. Like,
Right.
obviously
Yeah.
not the
Oh, yeah,
part in
the-
Alice in Wonderland where they bite the fairies'
I
heads
agree.
off.
The
But
drink me, the
drink me, eat me
and-
thing. Yeah. That part was the most overt. Well, that and walking through the wall, which is kind of reminiscent of walking through the looking glass, going through the mirror kind of thing. I just, again, I thought that was where Del Toro sort of said, like, hey, by the way, here's some core reading material from where I pulled these stories.
Yeah, maybe.
That was one of the most obvious. Other than that, I really liked how he buried a lot of the stuff.
And then I thought, okay, well, if the faun isn't the devil,
Yeah.
well, maybe this is. Because you see the paintings on the ceiling and all that kind of stuff of it
There's
eating
a lot
kids.
of imagery of it.
And
Yes.
I'm like, okay, well, this is kind of like Bible stuff here, where the devil's eating humans and all that kind of crap.
Well, yeah, like what John said earlier was the original, the fairy tale of the faun is a bad dude.
Right.
Yeah, of Pan, yeah.
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 So that's why they wanted to change it.
Gotcha.
How I took those pictures, because it's the pictures of the Skin Guy
Yeah.
eating children.
Right.
I took those as all the other vessels that this princess's soul has
Holy cow.
has been in,
yeah,
and they failed, and so they actually got caught and eaten by this guy.
that's interesting.
So,
So this isn't the first time
I
Yeah.
totally
that
overlooked
this
that.
has happened.
well, you're right, because Fawn does tell her that there have been others before her and they have all failed.
Yeah.
Holy cow.
Yeah, it's
I
interesting.
totally didn't catch that
Yeah.
at all.
Well, since we're talking about the Pale Man scene, so I've seen this movie.
Talk about bingo wings on that guy.
Oh yeah,
Well,
something I aspire to be.
gross.
bingo wings.
You gotta lose a
I've never
lot of
heard
weight.
that.
Yeah.
I've never heard bingo wings, by the way.
Really?
Never heard that.
It's the worst.
That's
It's the worst.
messed up.
It's the worst seeing them on like a motorcycle. They're just flopping in the
Oh
wind.
my
God.
god.
Mental imagery galore.
Anyway, so yeah, speaking about the Pale Man scene, so I've seen this movie a bunch of times. It came out in 2006. There must have been a period of about 5 or 6 years that I watched this movie at least once a year.
Wow.
5, 6, 7 years. This past viewing, it was the first time I noticed something that made me question something in this scene.
Okay.
Was when she went to unlock the locker. There's 3
Yes.
padlocks or 3 lockers, and the fairies all go look in the keyhole,
Yep.
and they tell her, hey, it's this middle one, and then she goes to do it, and then she goes, wait, no, and then she goes and unlocks the left one, which pulls the dagger out.
Yes.
Now, obviously, we find out later towards the end that each one of these tasks is actually some kind of test,
Yeah.
right? Now, the first one and the last one makes sense. She realizes that it's a test that she has to change her mind, but there was nothing to indicate to Ofelia at that moment that I can remember to tell her to not open the middle locker, to not trust the fairies.
Yeah.
Did I miss something after the 10 times that I've seen this, or
Unless in her readings of that book that she had, obviously off camera or something like that.
yeah? But that's something that should be conveyed to the audience too.
It should, but in the same time, it's almost like her past memories are coming back of going, oh, well, it's actually this door.
Well, that's what I was going to say. Is I took it as she was getting some kind of like whisperings of her real self as to which one to pick.
Yeah.
But I don't know. Maybe there was something I missed as well. I mean, I've seen it at least as many times as you have, if not.
Yeah.
I've probably seen it 20 times.
Some reason I
brother.
just caught it this time. It was like, wait
Yeah.
a minute, how did she know?
I-
Or what
again,
inkling did she have?
I always just took it as she just kind of was like, oh, you're telling me the wrong one. The book is kind of interesting. I never noticed if there was something in the book, but that, again, if it was in there, it should have been paused on
Right.
longer. So she's like, oh, it's the shape of that, or it's that keyhole color or whatever. Because aren't they like one's like a house shape, another one's kind of round.
They're
it looks like a
different
leaf or
colors,
something.
they're
Yeah,
all-
there's
they're
like a
each
red,
different,
green. Yeah.
very
And the one
different.
that she opens is almost like a barn door or something.
Yeah, the one in the middle, it's almost like the Holy Grail kind of thing. It's
Yeah.
like the
Yeah.
one in the middle is like kind of gold plated
Yeah.
and it looks fancy and all, but the one on the left is more like with wood and all. Maybe that's how she
Maybe
knew.
that's why. Yeah.
Earth, nature.
Well, according to random person online, it was a simple part of the test. Ophelia needed to prove that she herself knew the correct door. There are
Right.
also parallels with the non-fantasy plot in the conversation between the doctor and Vidal. The doctor talks about not blindly following orders, stating that only a person like Vidal is able to do that.
Right.
Could be argued that all three tests are designed to prove that she is the opposite of Vidal's character. It has also been suggested that in many fairy tales involving choice among three things, two will be made of some nice material such as silk or metal, and one cheaper, less impressive material.
So maybe that is
That might
it
have been
then.
it, yeah.
Interesting.
Interesting.
Yeah.
She just watched Indiana Jones.
Maybe.
And
Right.
Last
And
Crusade.
And she
She had
chose
just watched it.
correctly.
She chose wisely.
Wisely, that's it. God damn it.
You had one job,
I know, I
Justin.
had one job. I know.
Of course, her actual dad ends up being the knight from the Crusades, so that's kind of an interesting tie-in at the
There
end.
you go.
there.
Yeah. Well, speaking of the Pale Man too, that was played by one of Del Toro's most used actors, Doug Jones.
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Who he plays the Pale Man. He also plays Pan in this. He was the aquatic hero guy in
yeah, Sapien.
Yeah,
Abe Sapien.
Abe Sapien.
Was he also in Shape of Water?
Yeah,
he was the alien.
Yeah,
in that?
he was the
or he was
the
the
fish.
the creature,
Mermaid.
from
Yeah.
the Black Lagoon.
He's a mermaid.
Yeah,
It's creature.
No.
yeah. He's in almost every Del Toro movie.
Yeah.
Um,
He always plays a creature.
Which
Yeah.
is interesting because some guys, I mean, I would think if Javier Bardem, who I believe is also a Spanish actor, I believe he's from Spain. I'm surprised him and Del Toro haven't linked up. To be honest, Javier Bardem has like a weird muscular genetic issue that he's got like 8-foot long arms and stuff. I mean, like no lie, like no.
Dang.
If you ever like in the last, I think like 6 or 8 years, any movie that has like a weird shaped monster that's I'm trying to think, like there's Mara, there's
With extremely long arms.
extremely long arms in particular. Yeah, it's Javier Bardem.
Wow.
I guarantee you it's Javier Bardem underneath.
well, I mean,
it.
Doug
Yeah.
Jones. If you ever
Slender Man. The
Oh,
Slender Man.
Slender Man.
They
That
actually
was-
had a
that was
live action
him.
Slender Man. That was Javier Bardem, and it was like there was no makeup added per se. It was just him in a suit.
No prosthetics
And
or
it was
anything.
just-
Holy shit.
Yeah, it was just him.
That's crazy.
Swinging his long ass arms around.
well, I mean, Doug Jones is pretty tall and lanky. He's very skinny. Well, I mean, he almost looks like the Pale Man in this movie.
Oh yeah.
It's an interesting kind of thing. It took him 5 hours to get into that makeup.
Wow. That's it.
Yeah. Well,
I mean,
it's a
I would have
decent
thought
amount.
that it would be more because I mean, there's some other characters out there that don't look as impressive, and it takes like 12 hours
Yeah.
to get into that makeup.
Yeah.
They had a great makeup designer.
And the only way he could get around was to look through the nose holes. of
Oh,
the thing.
really? Okay.
And then that's how he developed. You know the little weird shots where he would like hold his hand out and like
Yes.
he'd be looking up towards the sky.
Oh.
That's him trying to look around.
Trying to see.
Yeah.
But it makes a
But
lot
it
of
looks
sense
good.
because he's trying to look around with his hands because his hands are the eyeballs.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
That's pretty funny.
Well, and since I'm speaking about Doug Jones too,
By the way, I kept saying Javier Bardem. I'm
Yeah.
an idiot. It's Javier Botet. I
Oh,
apologize.
okay.
And Javier Botet is 6'7" with a wingspan of almost 7 feet.
Oh wow.
dang.
Yeah, Doug Jones is 6'3.5" and has a wingspan of 5 feet.
Oh, okay.
So I mean, imagine 2.5 extra
I thought
feet
your
of
your
arms.
wingspan was supposed to be almost identical to your height.
Yeah,
Yeah, if
Here's
you're
a-
normal.
Here's a picture of this dude though. Look at the length of his arms.
His arms are
He can scratch his
Ridiculous.
kneecaps without bending down.
Wow.
well. Hey,
Yeah, I mean he's got extremely long. Look at his
when you
fingers.
got an itch, you got an itch, man.
Dude, look at his fingers.
Yeah, just
That's crazy.
Oh yeah. I know that guy.
he's
But Doug
oddly
Jones.
shaped.
Yeah, he's an English actor.
Yes.
Yeah, or an American, I should say. He speaks English. He does not speak any Spanish.
Okay.
And he works, really a lot with Del Toro.
Must be awkward. in the off screen or something like that, they were like talking to him. Obviously, they speak English too on set. But
Actually,
what?
it was a all Spanish speaking crew.
Yeah, this movie was definitely filmed in Spain.
Yeah.
I mean, there's no question.
And Del Toro was the only bilingual person on the set.
No way.
Yeah. So he was the only person that...
I mean, you had
that
to
they
have some sort of
communicated with.
interpreters somewhere to help out with.
No, from what I read, it was just Del Toro.
Holy crap. Well,
It
I guess
was-
if everybody spoke Spanish.
Except for Doug Jones. In which case he's like, mira, Doug. Yes, yes, sir.
But you know what's interesting is when he was doing the makeup for all the pan stuff, he was going over the script and he was memorizing his lines in Spanish.
Yeah.
Because he has to speak Spanish. Well, they were shooting it, and he was doing everything in Spanish. He has no idea what he's saying, really. He had to learn his lines and Ophelia's lines because he wouldn't know when to talk.
Yeah,
Gotcha.
So he had to know both parts, and it was just kind of said he's kind of just like gibberish, just remembering patterns in language to be able to do that part. But it kind of backfired on him, sort of, because after they shot a lot of the stuff, they weren't getting great sound because of the servos and stuff that were
moving his ears,
moving the ears and all this stuff. It made it very difficult for him to hear Ophelia and to project too.
Yeah.
So they didn't want to just ad-lib it with his voice doing Spanish. So Del Toro hired an actual like Shakespearean drama Spanish actor to overdub.
Yeah, because
which was I think was a great choice because the voice that they use is fantastic.
It's not that. I would just be pissed if I was Doug Jones. All that work and then you're like, I was just dubbed over.
But it did help. It did help because his mouth movements helped the ad-libber.
That's a good point.
To ad-lib better.
Okay, because I was wondering, I was like, well, man, if Doug Jones actually played the faun, who the hell was speaking?
Yeah, it was a Shakespearean actor from Spain.
His name was Jose.
Or Mexico.
Yes. He comes from the city of Barcelona.
Nah, he just came from Spain.
We know that actor's name, though, Doug Jones. We know him. We don't know the guy who was actually in the Darth Vader suit.
Yeah, that's true.
That's true.
We do after the fact, right?
Yeah,
I
can't think of it off the top of my head.
Yeah.
Spoiler alert.
All I can think of is James Earl Jones.
Yeah.
Takes off this hammer or this
alert.
not the camera that takes off his helmet. And I was like, wait a minute.
I just want to point out.
I thought you meant he takes off his helmet, then he says spoiler alert.
Spoiler alert.
It's not.
It's James Earl Jones.
It's not who you think it is.
Yes. I still want to point out the new movies suck. Okay, the last three movies garbage.
So
go ahead.
He's definitely got Del Toro's definitely got a type for females. Because because like Mercedes, okay, you could basically just plop her in any one of his movies and it's the same chick. I mean, the girl that's in Shape of Water kind of looks like Mercedes.
Does she? I don't really remember.
It's just very like it's always brunette, kind of skinny. It's just the same type of character, I would think.
So I think I know what you're talking about. What I like about the women that he picks in particular is that they don't scream like beautiful.
Well, they don't like scream Hollywood actor.
That's okay. There we go.
That.
That's what I mean. They're not.
It's
glam.
like this person. I could definitely see them in that period.
Yes, he's not quite Fellini.
Yeah,
he's not quite that bad, but I mean, it's definitely like an every man, every woman type of person that he's casting. Vidal is probably the most like he's traditionally handsome.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Although he's a scoundrel. So I mean, he's more than that. He's an asshole. But yeah, I agree with you. I think Mercedes is pretty, but in a very like humble. Oh God, what's the word? She's not quite.
It's not homely, but like just I guess real.
Yeah,
it's a real life,
down to earth.
Yeah, down to earth character.
She's a real 7. She's not a Hollywood. She's not a Hollywood 7.
And we know Eddie rankings, so
that's pretty high.
That's pretty high.
Anyway,
you guys are such actors. I don't rate women like I do movies. I'm just giving you an example of what people would say. She's a real 4. Go ahead, John.
But yeah, Kyle, he even does that in Troll Hunters.
Really?
Not me, by the way.
Del Toro. The
he even rates Troll Hunters.
Yeah.
The female lead in Troll Hunters is a Spanish brunette
Kind of looks like Mercedes.
Kind of looks like Mercedes, exactly.
In a way.
I just realized that.
Yeah, it's like he's got a type.
I did read see an interview where somebody was talking to him about her character, and he said the reason that that he casted her was because, quotes, he felt had look of sadness to her.
Yeah,
and he kind of liked that, I guess.
It definitely fit. I mean, the casting in this movie was, I would say, top notch.
Yeah, I think Ofelia, she's 11 years old when she did this.
Really good.
Actress. Yeah, really good.
I would say way better than Natalie Portman.
I was about to say, how would you rate it against Natalie Portman and like
right
Leon?
on the tip of my tongue.
Better,
way better. I mean, far superior. Mm-hmm. I would say. I mean, from the two movies that we've seen, Natalie Portman and in this age, wow, this girl really knows how to act.
And this girl has more to do.
Yeah, for sure.
Oh, she was definitely doing a lot. Yeah,
that's a lot more speaking roles, a lot more like physical stuff.
Right.
I mean, it's crazy. Like that whole frog going through the sledge and everything. Oh God, that was nasty.
Ugh. There were bugs crawling all over her. And I don't know if they were CGI.
They were probably CGI.
There were a couple, I think, that were, but there were one or two that I was like, ooh, I don't know.
They're probably like the little rubber bugs that just don't move. You know, those were probably real, but all the ones that moved, that was fake.
You think they were all fake? I don't know. So sorry. If it was, I'll say this: the ones on the ground CGI, it's mixing with dirt, whatever. The ones that were on her, if that was CGI, pretty good CGI, especially for 2006.
I was going to say,
pretty
a lot of the CGI in this movie is really good.
Yeah, even for 2006. Yeah, I agree with you.
I mean, even the frog was real. That was like an animatronic.
Yeah, it looked animatronic.
And I mean, the tongue that came out though was CGI.
Oh, that looked bad.
And that looks pretty bad.
Yeah.
But I mean, the whole thing that came out of the frog, and then I was thinking, oh God, it's gonna explode. You know, it's just
no. She just had to go dig through it. Didn't have to explode. She just had to dig her hands.
Well, luckily the key was like right on top.
Luckily,
barely an inconvenience.
Yeah, barely an inconvenience.
So the part where Vidal smashes that guy's face.
Yeah, let's talk about Vidal a little bit.
Yeah. That part, whenever the first time I watched this movie, was shocking. Mm-hmm. Not because I just see this guy, he's a captain, he's an asshole, and not seeing him kill somebody. I'm like, oh, of course he's going to kill somebody. He's an asshole. But the fact that he took that bottle and like beat his nose into his head, I was like, oh my God.
And you can actually see the skull like
that's what I'm saying,
starting to
collapse. And I'm like,
oh God.
Oh God. They're gonna
kids movie.
It's gonna keep going.
Yay.
Yeah, I wasn't prepared for that. You know what I mean?
Right.
You want into something else disturbing?
Oh no, that really happened. That guy, that actor,
he's dead.
He's method.
He went full. Yeah.
So method, he's dead.
This scene actually comes from a incident in Del Toro's life.
No way.
Where he and a friend were in a fight.
Oh shit.
And his friend was beaten in the face with a bottle.
Jesus.
And it's also based on a real occurrence in Spain when a fascist smashed a citizen's face with the butt of a pistol and took his groceries, all because the man didn't take off his hat.
Yeah.
Dang.
Yeah.
So,
and another thing I liked about that scene was when he shot the father of that group.
Mm-hmm. Everybody stepped to the side.
Did you notice that the guy holding him?
Oh,
he was like, "Oh shit!"
Yeah,
he like moved the guy to the side, and then he got shot. And he was like, "I was like, yeah."
He knows what's coming.
Smart move there, dude.
Yeah.
You know that bullet's going to go right through him.
Well, there was that the spray. The spray went over like 3 or 4 people. I mean, there's a lot. I mean,
that was okay.
Listen,
That's
well, when
good.
Vidal turns back around to his second in command or whatever, Serrano, I think.
Yeah.
He's got like blood all over his face, like
and his uniform and everything. Yeah. So I mean.
You know, and he does this thing too, which just solidifies him as really being an asshole. Is so this scene, to set it up for anyone who hasn't seen this movie, is the father and son, they're trespassing, blah blah blah. They suspect them to be the rebels.
Enemy.
Yep.
So Vidal comes in, he starts looking through the luggage, and he sees papers and all that says that okay, they might be rebels. And so anyway, so he kills the guy. The guy's
but their main story was they were out rabbit hunting.
Right. They're out rabbit hunting, and so he
I don't believe you.
He doesn't believe him, so he kills him, and he turns back around to his second command, and then he continues to search, and then he finds the rabbit.
Not one, but 2 rabbits.
2 rabbits, and then he tells the second command to make sure you finish searching before you bother me again.
Yeah.
And what instantly went through my mind was, maybe you should have finished searching.
Yeah. Or maybe you shouldn't have shot them or killed them before you stop searching the back.
But see, what I think takes place in this scene is sort of twofold. One, yes, he's kind of set the tone now with.
Well, this is the first time you see this character be a
be like
total
awful.
ass.
Yeah, I'm with you.
Yeah.
I'm with you completely. But I mean, I think for the villagers, quote unquote, the character living in this world, I think it does two things. One, it sets the tone for the villagers. Don't fuck with us. It's not a joke. Mm-hmm. But two, it also sets the tone for his men.
Right.
Like so when I talk to people about, certain old plays and stuff like for instance Beowulf. There's a part in Beowulf when he cuts off Grendel's head and he sticks the head on a stick and he carries it into town.
Yeah.
And I have had questions as to, well, why? Why would someone do that?
Fear.
And I've always said
respect,
because nothing says don't fuck with me like a head on a stick.
Yeah.
Right?
Well, that's why they've done it all throughout history.
Exactly.
Yep.
This is that type of scene where it's like, do you want to know how crazy I am? Do you want to know how much I'm in charge? I'm so in charge, I'm going to kill this rabbit hunter for no reason whatsoever. So please do your job better so that I don't have to do things like kill the rabbit hunters.
Yeah.
You know
but
what I mean?
then
And
after the fact,
then he takes damn rabbits to eat them.
Well, yeah, but then
bastard.
I think it was Mercedes. She was like, well, those are too young to eat.
Well, he said just make them to a stew then.
Yeah, but it kind of caught me off guard because I'm thinking, well, okay, maybe these guys were actual gorillas doing some spying stuff, and they just
that was just
to have
cover.
There's just rabbits in here, and they're like, you weren't going to actually use these to eat.
See, now you went a different way than I went with it. Because what's happening in that country, that could be the way that he meant it. I'm not saying.
Oh,
that.
yeah, I don't know.
But what's happening in that country at the time, having just gone through war and everything, there's a major food shortage.
Oh yeah,
right?
and all the wildlife is probably like
that's what
gone.
I was gonna say. Is they're down to like whatever they can hunt and
Yeah.
eat is what they've got, and if all they can catch that day are a couple of young rabbits, fuck it. Like that's
that's
dinner.
what you're gonna
you know
eat.
what I mean? Because otherwise you're stuck trying to get the ration card from the fascist that hasn't even shown up, and then you got to deal with speeches and bullshit just to get milk. I mean, come on.
Here's your pamphlets.
So speaking of Vidal, he's one of my favorite characters in this movie. Just because I think Del Toro does such a good job with character development with everybody. All the main actors in this movie get such a good job at their character development. Like for instance, the first time we even see Vidal is he's waiting on Ofelia and her mother to arrive at the cottage. Right, and he's looking at his watch, and the first thing he says is 15 minutes late. And then you learn later he's so obsessed with time because of his father. He died in battle, and he broke his watch so that his son Vidal would know at what time that he died. You know? Right. There's little things like that that's really interesting.
And then he lied about it.
Well, texture.
Yeah, texture.
There's a lot of texture to that character. It's not a two-dimension baddie. Like, it's not like Cruella de Vil.
Yeah, and there's one thing that I found while doing some research for the show that makes me like it even more. When he first meets Ofelia and the mother, when he first greets them into the car.
Yeah.
So I wrote this down. So in Spanish, and Eddie, you can correct me if I'm wrong here.
No.
So when you're addressing two or more women, you should say bienvenidos. Bienvenidos?
Yes.
D-A-S.
Bienvenidas.
Benidas.
Yes. Sorry.
But in the presence of any man or boy, one is required to use DOS. Right?
Huh.
So when he greets Ofelia and the mother, he uses DAS, referring to his male child.
Okay.
That just shows how much he doesn't care.
He uses DOS, you mean?
Yeah, he uses DOS.
Yeah. If he says
DOS,
bienvenidos, that means he's...
That's what I meant to say,
to him, Ophelia's mom, whose name escapes me, is just an incubator.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, the whole time he reaffirms that. And when he tells the guy, can you save the kid?
Yeah,
like,
he's just
save
interested
the kid.
in his unborn son.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, he's a dick.
I mean, that's just an interesting, for someone
Little
who
piece,
is not bilingual in Spanish, that's an interesting thing that I just learned about this movie that makes me like the character development even more.
Yeah, and then all to come find out that, at the very end when, he takes the boy away from Ofelia and shoots her, and then he's confronted with all these gorillas.
Right.
And what was great about that scene was he was like, okay, well, he's got his watch and he's gonna break it, the same way his father did. And he was like, tell my son. And the Mercedes is like, no, I'm going to stop you right there.
Yeah.
We ain't telling him shit.
Yeah. They won't even know you existed.
And then shoots him in the face, which that was some really good or either CGI or something, because, the blood started, like, going up into his eyes.
Yeah, and his eyes started rolling.
I was like, oh, my God, that is so cool.
Yeah.
It was, like, really good.
No,
you don't really see that a whole lot in movies. Like, when somebody gets shot in the face, it's always right between the eyes and top forehead. Always. You don't see him like getting just shot the hell from the cheek.
Yeah.
No, you don't see that.
No, what I like about talking about the textures piece and whatnot is that's what I like about a good Del Toro movie anyway, is that everybody is thought through. It's not something where you have a 2-dimensional character, at least as a main character. There's guards in this that we don't know who they are. Even his underlings, Vidal's underlings, are just some guys who are also part of the army.
Right.
But like the doctor has a fairly interesting story. The Mercedes and her brother have fairly interesting stories. Like everybody is well thought out. It's almost TV show level.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like we like Ballers on this show. Like we like Ballers from HBO. What I like about that show is how thought out all the characters seem to be. Nobody seems to just be like a throwaway on that show. Like even some of the minor characters who are not part of the background anyway, still have a story that goes with them that you're like, oh shit, like where did she go? Oh, she took that job in Cincinnati. No, she's a fucking character who took another, as an actress, she took another job. But in your mind, you're like, she moved to Cincinnati. Her and The Rock, they couldn't work out together.
She's now working for the Bengals.
Yeah, I just like I like when they think enough to put texture into a movie, and Del Toro does that. Almost every time he does that.
It's such a good job in this movie.
The Devil's Backbone is on my list, by the way. That's one of my. Oh hell yeah, it's it's a great movie.
I haven't seen it.
Yeah,
I've read about it and I've seen the trailers.
Well, I say it's a great movie. It's a very down to earth way of looking again at the Spanish War, about a kid who's trying to deal with what's happening in his in his life and all that kind of stuff. And oh yeah, there's a ghost. Like it's that it's this weird take on things, but it's such a different perspective.
Yeah,
on a
that
ghost
was one
story.
thing that I realized with this movie was, most of the story was what's happening on the surface, like during the war and like in human world.
Yeah,
a lot of the story doesn't take place in the fantasy world.
Yeah,
which I thought was kind of interesting, because I was thinking, okay, this is Pan's Labyrinth or whatever, it's all going to be about fantasy and stuff like that, but it really doesn't go all like full-fledged 100% fantasy. It's
like 25-75.
Yeah, it really mixes it kind of well.
I think so.
And it's not like I don't know, everything is all fictional, look at all these pretty colors.
That might be why I like it.
It gives you some depth and reality into what's actually going on during this time that Ophelia's doing her thing.
Well, that's the thing. It's really about the stuff that's happening with Vidal and her mom and the war, and then she's trying to somehow process that. Yeah. And then she's also dealing with these fictional, or not fictional necessarily, but like mythic creatures and this thought and etc. It's escape. I still think I'm very inclined to say that it's just escapism.
That's what I think.
That it's just her trying to mentally handle the fact that she's basically lived through a war. She lost her dad to the war. Now she's lost her mom to the war. Now she lost her life and her half brother to the war. I think she's just trying to handle those things, and in doing so, she's drummed up this world that just because there's this labyrinth, I should say, that's next to the mill that her stepdaddy has brought her to.
Yeah. Right.
You know what I mean?
No, I have a Del Toro quote. Somebody asked him about the metaphorical ending. Oh, you know, whether it's psychological or whatever. And he said, and I quote, "I always think of that beautiful quote by Soren Kierkegaard."
Oh, Kierkegaard.
Kierkegaard.
Yes.
That says, "The tyrant's reign ends with his death, but the martyr's reign starts with his death." And I think that is the essence of the movie. It's about living forever or by choosing how you die.
I like it.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Huh.
So before we get on to the thing, one more little thing that I thought was interesting. This received a 22-minute standing ovation at Cannes.
22 minutes? Holy cow.
I can kind of see it, though. I listen, you guys know me. I don't kiss anyone in Hollywood's ass. However, Del Toro's, he's kind of a secret crush. Like I can only imagine.
Got a little man crush?
Yeah, oh yeah. He would just sweep me away. He'd hit me with that Spanish accent and be like,
God.
"Hello, Eddie. I've made a movie for you. It is written with many beautiful things and some awful things and many beautiful things." And I'd be like, "Oh,
it's almost like you're the faun now.
oh my heart a patter. Oh my lord."
You went into the Gone with the Wind with Del Toro. That would have been a different movie.
Yeah, right.
One more thing that I was going to mention since we're talking about Del Toro. This was the first movie he decided that he's going to start writing all of his English translations to. And this was the first movie that he completely did it, because apparently he was horrified with the previous translation jobs that other people have done in his previous movies.
For like the subtitles and stuff?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Devil's Backbone has that a little bit.
Oh, really?
Yeah. There's a couple of spots where I'm like, that's not what he said. Like, that's not at all what just got said there, sir. Yeah.
So this was the first one that he completely did himself. That's kind of cool.
Wow.
Kind of interesting.
That's pretty amazing.
But that is kind of one of the situations where you're just like, God damn, one more thing on my plate. I can't even get a translation.
I was thinking
Seriously,
that too
guys?
when I read that. Yeah, I was like, okay, well, I wrote it, directed it, produced it. Now I got to do the translation.
Well, because what the translators were doing is they were throwing extra stuff in there to explain. They were throwing exposition in.
Oh,
and he's like, he's like, what? No.
See, I'm glad you said that, because what I was going to go to is, unfortunately, Spanish is kind of like English versus, like American English versus British English versus like the Ozark English, etc. There's a ton of different dialects. So it's possible, depending on who they got to do the translation, that they were like
Ozark English.
Well, I'm saying like hillbilly shit. Like you guys don't say creek, you say crick. Yeah, that nonsense.
Those are two different things.
Don't be knocking the Ozarks now.
A creek and a crick are two different things.
Creek's bigger than a crick.
Listen, that's my point,
Darn
gentlemen.
right.
You're making my points.
By having to argue that, you are making his point.
Don't mess with the Ozarks.
So it's possible that the translator didn't mean anything by it necessarily, but then you're saying the exposition piece of that there's no excuse.
If you just add things that aren't being said, it's like no, that's not a translation.
No,
that's interpretation.
You're putting your own shit in there.
Yeah. So Kyle, do you have budgetary stuff for this movie?
Yes, and I was actually quite shocked when I looked at this number. $19 million was the budget.
I was going to say 20. I was really close. I was going to say 20 million.
I was thinking it was closer to 25.
I mean, I thought it was probably a lot more.
Well,
but he works pretty low.
Yeah, I mean, come to think of it, though, it's like okay, it was only like one place, and maybe some forest or whatever. That's because I know it was shot in Mexico and Spain, so they had two filming locations. I don't know, whatever. But yeah, 19 million. So
I know like all the explosions were CGI. Because the time that they were shooting, it was expected to be like the worst drought.
Oh gosh!
Like this,
so they had like fire restrictions.
So they had fire restrictions, not do real explosive stuff. So they had to fake all the explosions.
Dang!
Did it win its money back? Is that what you're gonna ask?
Yeah. So yes. To win it, did it make its money back?
Absolutely.
Oh yeah, for sure.
So just in the,
I'm gonna say by a lot.
Just in the opening weekend, it came out in the U.S. December 31st, 2006.
35 million. Opening weekend.
No, close. No, it actually made 568,000.
Okay,
just in the opening weekend, which kind of a bummer.
Yeah,
but
it's not a good box office showing.
Well, hold on. American audiences.
Yeah,
and it's a subtitled Spanish movie.
Yeah,
I'd be curious to know what else came out that
decent.
week. I'd be curious to know.
Oh, in 2006,
what was it competing against?
Yeah, who knows?
Mission Impossible.
A lot of the, I mean, I guess good movies typically they're like either in the summer or in Christmas or New Year's Eve or New Year's Day or something like that, right? So this is a very heavy trafficked movie outing. But gross worldwide, it made $83 million.
Yeah, so that's not bad.
Nice.
About 300% profit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's doing pretty good. Done good.
Well, the critics on Rotten Tomatoes, they gave it a 95%, and the audience gave it a 91%.
Wow, yeah, that definitely makes sense.
Yeah. So I guess we'll go ahead and do our scores for it.
Yeah.
So this is one of my favorite movies. I've seen it a bunch of times. I love the cinematography of this. I love the character development. The guy who plays Vidal, super good to me. Like he nails this character. and I've learned more about the details about his character for doing research for this show that makes me like it even more.
Right.
You know? So, man, yeah, it's just a super interesting movie to me, and I'm glad we were able to talk about it. So I'm going to give it a 9.
Solid 9.
Yeah.
Okay.
Cool. So this movie coming in at 2 hours, being a historical drama filled with fantasy creatures, and then also, by the way, happens to be all in Spanish, and you got to watch subtitles for 2 hours. I am incredibly not bored with this movie. You know what I mean? Like, it just doesn't. It keeps me involved the entire 2 hours. And I've seen it. I mean, I shit you not, I've seen it probably 20 times.
Yeah.
Like, I love this movie too. I don't know why it gets me so much, but it gets me in the feels. And at the same time, I kind of hate Vidal, and I really love the way it looks. I love the aesthetic that Del Toro is able to come up with. I love the shadows he's not afraid of. Devil's Backbone, by the way, whenever we get to that, if we ever get to watch that, the shadows that he just is like, no, I don't want to see the kid. Dark. You didn't hear me. Dark.
Turn off the light.
He just completely, just envelops it. Just, completely embraces, I should say, shadows and just light and using light in a creative way.
Well, one scene where Pan, like, he
I was
gets
gonna
done
mention
talking
that.
to
Yeah,
Ofelia, and he like creeps in behind the shadows. And I was like, oh, that's so good.
And he totally
Yeah.
disappears.
Yeah.
Oh, he obviously crouches down and stuff like that,
Yeah.
and then they cut away.
Yeah,
But it's just
but
a
I'm like,
practical effect that is
that's
done
really cool.
really well, and you're like, oh, it's like he went back into his little underworld thing. No, he's a character. He's an actor who crouched down behind a box in the back. But you're like, look at him go! Like,
He teleported. Amazing.
movie magic.
Yeah.
Anyway, so it's Mexico. Anyway, so in general, yeah, I really am impressed by this movie in a lot of ways. But again, I just like this. I like the writing. I like the ideas that he was able to grab. He manages to grab a bunch of stories that we all know. Little Red Riding Hood. There's the scene with Ofelia, and she's wearing the red and all that stuff. It's Little Red Riding Hood. You know what I mean?
Yep.
And the villagers are there to save her, just like the what's his name was there to save her. That he couldn't though because the guy already shot her, but they were there to save her.
He even copies The Shining, where he's trying to chase
with an
Danny
axe,
down in the
with a little axe, yeah. So into the labyrinth, yeah. So I mean, he rips off all these different sources, and yet it's still a good movie. I'm sorry, it just is. So for me, it's I'm going to give it a solid 8.5.
Okay.
It's a pretty good movie for me. I know.
Wow.
I expected like a 4.
No.
Damn.
Nope.
Really enjoyed the movie.
Yes,
Point 2.
I did.
No, I'm just kidding.
It was excellent. 0.05.
Yeah. It's okay.
Best movie ever made. I'm gonna give it a 3.
So yeah, with me, I obviously I try to watch these, the day before the show, and I typically like make dinner or whatever and watch it while having dinner. Well, that is really difficult to do when you have to watch and read subtitles. So I learned very quickly that I just probably need to stop eating dinner while watching full Spanish movies, because I don't know that language enough to look off screen for a little bit and then look back because I missed like 3 sentences. Everything about this movie was just nice. Like, the coloring was dark enough but not too dark. It definitely kept the mood alive during this whole film. Love all the characters, like the cinematography, love the makeup. The makeup on these like the faun and everything was outstanding.
Mm-hmm. His horns weighed 10 pounds.
Wow. Probably didn't need to be, but damn it, those were great horns.
Yeah.
I would say I'm going to give...
I don't know, it's just a weird comment, but okay.
yeah, but they were
You're right.
They
You're
were
right.
great horns.
Yeah.
You know what I liked? The horns in this movie? Second to none.
I mean,
9-2.
Probably way better than not Daredevil.
Hellboy?
Hellboy.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
definitely,
Way
yeah.
better than Hellboy. So I'm going to give this probably an 8.2.
And speaking of Hellboy, real fast, John, I'm sorry to cut in. I think the difference is less people involved.
Yeah.
Hellboy, he had his American Hollywood people to listen to and to please. With this movie, I mean, he was making it all in Spain, and he kind of had carte blanche. Like, it was like, okay, well, you do what you want, Del Toro. I will, Jose. Thank you. Something like that.
Okay.
Except in Spanish.
Except in Spanish.
Yeah.
Sí, gracias.
So the movie's visually stunning. to me. The color and the lighting are amazing. The muted tones and the blue, the blue nights are with just the right amount of light on the actor's face is damn near magical. I also like the natural transition separating the real military world with the Labyrinth world. I thought that was really well done. Skinny guy, way creepy and disturbing. Faun is equally creepy, but you learn to like him a little bit, even though you distrust him, which I think was kind of cool. And the movie itself brings together two colossally different worlds between Franco's fascist military and the Labyrinth fantasy world, and gives us a movie of choices. We can choose. We can choose to give in to fear and allow bad things to happen, or we can take the harder path and help yourself and help others. My only disappointment is right at the end where we're in the fantasy world and she's in front of her family, her parents, right? Yeah. I wish Del Toro would have made that scene more visually appealing rather than just like this flat gold. It really wasn't. It didn't fit with the rest of the quality of the movie.
I kind of thought we were in with Thor, Ragnarok or whatever.
Well, what's interesting is there's a scene in Hellboy 2 that's exactly like this.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, it's shot the same way, same gold textures and everything.
Yeah, it looked like we were in Asgard. Yeah,
but the message the movie sends, along with the visuals, create an overall stunning, one of the most stunning films I've seen. And given that, I'm going to give this an 8.5.
Okay, so John gives it an 8.5.
Coming out strong there, Justin.
Yeah, I guess for the
first movie of the season.
Yeah, it comes out to be 8.6.
Nice.
An average score for Pan's Labyrinth. So, with that, we need to see who is going to pick our next movie.
Okay. And with you're not on the list.
I am not on the list anymore.
So it's just the three of us, gentlemen.
Yeah.
Let's go. And it's going to be Eddie.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So
Eddie.
Now we need to see what is he picking from, what genre.
And your genre.
Oh.
Fantasy is gone.
Yes. Fantasy no more.
Is going to be horror.
Is it really? What do you know?
Imagine that.
Well, I was about to say, what genre are you going to pick the Devil's Backbone for? Because I don't know what it's listed as.
It's horror. It's horror. It's drama. It's a bunch of stuff. You guys want to go that route?
Oh no, it's your movie.
It's your movie.
Your movie.
Pick it.
I know. I just spent the whole movie talking about, or this whole podcast talking about the Devil's Backbone. I think I'm going to save that to give us a break from Spanish subtitled movies, and move over to French subtitled movies.
No,
and do
no.
I don't think it's the whole movie. I don't remember. It's been a while since I've seen this one.
So only the French people speak French?
I think so. It's As Above, So Below from 2014.
As above,
so below. Yeah. It's not what I would call like an amazing movie like that, but it's got some interesting things in it. That's why I'm picking it.
Gotcha.
It's interesting. You got a synopsis, Justin? Go ahead.
Yeah, the synopsis. When a team of explorers ventures into the catacombs that lie beneath the streets of Paris, they uncover the dark secret that lies within the City of the Dead.
Ooh.
Directed by John Eric Dowdle. Written by John Eric Dowdle.
Yeah.
All right.
And again, interesting. There's some interesting things. It's not going to blow my hair back by any means, but it's got some interesting stuff.
All right, so if you want to follow along at home, just go to justwatch.com, look up As Above, So Below, film from 2014, and we'll see you next time.
See ya.
See ya.
Later.